Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Well, it is spring and it's time to do a little bit of yard maintenance, so I thought I would grab the old string trimmer and do a little bit of work, but I discovered that actually I am out of string in this unit. So this is just a really simple, it's a DeWalt 20 volt max string trimmer. So we're gonna do a quick discussion today on how to reload the string into the end of this so that you can get some work done. So the first thing you're gonna wanna do obviously is take out the battery so you don't have any problems with the unit turning on while you're doing this. So now that the battery's out, the next thing we're gonna have to do is obviously obtain some string that's gonna fit into here. So I just went down, picked up some string trimmer. It's not actually DeWalt string, but I don't think that really matters. This is really simple. Now, what you got to do now is we're going to want to pre-pull out an amount of string that's appropriate. So in this case, I find that around 10 to 12 feet is pretty good. So I'm actually going to pull that out ahead of time before I even try to string this. So let me go ahead and just pull out the string, and you can see this is the reason why I like to do this first, is because it can get a little bit tangled. And what I'm trying to do right now is just pull out about, maybe 2 arm lengths, which is around, between 10 and 12 feet of string, like that. Okay, let me go ahead and cut this. And I've actually already got myself a second batch as well. So I have 2 lengths of string, which are pretty much the exact same length. And now that I have these smaller bits, I can just kind of maybe untangle them a little bit, because what we're going to want to do next is get these spun around and spooled up and wound up on the string trimmer. But it's going to be a lot easier if you're working with just a smaller length of line than trying to feed the entire thing out of the case. So let me go ahead, take these, smooth them out a little bit, and then we'll take some next steps. All right, so now we've got the line measured out. We got to get the line onto the spool. So we're going to actually have to get this inner part of the spool out from and removed from the larger housing. So if you look on the side, let me see if you can see this. Yeah, there's that little symbol there, right? It's showing you with a padlock, it's showing you the direction to turn in order to lock the unit. So apparently it turns, if you're staring at it like this, counterclockwise is lock. So I guess clockwise is unlock. So it's a little bit counterintuitive, but clockwise is unlock. But you can see if you turn this, it doesn't seem to be unlocking. The entire unit spins, right? So it's really simple. All you gotta do is hold on to the outer housing here, grab the inner component of the spool and turn it clockwise. And again, here's the other funny thing is as you do this, you'll see it starts to turn and then it hits up against about a stop. So it's about an 1/8 of a turn of play. So all you gotta do is turn it clockwise about an 1/8 of a turn, you hit this stop, and then still holding onto the outer casing, just turn a little bit more and you'll hear a click. There, it clicked, okay? So now this inner part should just come right out. There you go. So now we've got the inner spool off. Let's go ahead and get the wire onto this spool. All right, so we've got the spool here and we've got one of our sections of untangled line. So what we're gonna do is let's turn this guy over, and you'll notice that there's a arrow here that says wind line in this direction, sort of in this clockwise fashion as we're staring at it like this, okay? Now, what we're gonna wanna do is if you look on the inside, there's basically 2 inner spools, right? Because there's gonna be 2 sets of line coming out of this, one going in one direction, one going in the other direction, so you've got 2 of these. And if you look into this groove, into these 2 spools, you'll see, okay, let me see if you can, it's kind of hard with the sun, but right here, you see here's 2 sets of holes. These are a little bit more square holes, and if you turn this around 180 degrees, there's 2 other sets of holes. These are a little bit more round holes. I think these 2 are just for the 2, if you have a different size or different cross-sectional type of line. So in my case, I've got more of the circular line. So again, let me untangle this. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use these 2 holes here, these 2 circular ones, okay? Let's just start with one of them. I'm just gonna poke this in sort of the natural direction, okay? So it goes like this, okay? Now if you look at this, you'll see that the wind line is in the opposite direction. So what you're gonna do is you poke this in and then you actually pull this and turn it the other way. So that's kind of why those holes, I think, are oriented the way they are, so that it turns out and catches on itself. So it makes it easy to wind, okay? So all we're gonna do now is basically wind in the direction of these arrows. And this is, again, why I think it's useful to have this this string out by itself, because now you can easily and very loosely, you don't want this to get tangled up. You want this to be nice and loose on the spool. We're just going to wind this thing up on the spool and get it completely on, and again, stay within its own track, right? And I'm just going to do this nice and loose, okay, like such. Okay, there we go. Okay, so it's on. And again, you can also, I think these are used to kind of show if you have too much line. If you see line on these grooves, that's kind of gonna maybe indicate that you've got too much. We're also gonna use these later to hold onto the line as we install, but basically this is a good setup. Now, let's go ahead and grab our second set of line. Okay, so we got one on, and now I've got my second pair of line. We're gonna do the exact same thing, but now this is where it gets a tiny bit tricky. So again, we're gonna have to find the hole. Okay, I think it's on this side, there it is. Okay, so here's the hole. All right, I don't know if I can see this with the sun and the glint, right? But again, same thing, insert the line into that hole and then wind in the opposite direction, wind in the direction of this wind line, right? So again, go ahead and do this nice and loosely, okay? At the end of the day, what we should have is two sets of nicely non-tangled, loosely wound line over it. Okay, there we go. So there it is. You got two sections of line into both of the grooves. Now what we're going to want to do is get a little bit of slack, and basically you're using these little grooves here to kind of pinch and hold the line, and you're going to see why in just a second. So I could do this one like this, but this is actually not a lot. We're going to need a little bit more slack, so I'm actually going to unwind this other spool completely one loop, something like this. And in fact, you know, maybe to make our lives easier, I might even want to do this for this top one, but you know, this will probably work. This will work for our purposes, okay? So at this point, what we've got, both sets of line are in both spools, and you've got them held on by these little tabs, okay? So that's it. Let's go ahead, grab the trimmer, and take some next steps. All right, so now we've got the trimmer, and on the trimmer, right, the idea is that the spool goes here, the line is then going to come out through these little holes, right? Here's one on one side, and then you've got another one on the 180 degrees on the opposite side. So what we're going to do now is take the trimmer, take the spool, and now you're going to have to feed these the loose ends through the holes. There's one of them, and then the second one goes through the other side. Let me see if I can get this. There we go. There we go. That's pretty close. Okay. Let me see if I can get this a little bit better position. There we go. Okay. So it's kind of quality on right now, right? So you can see you can kind of push up and down, push up and down. So I'm going to want to now push this down, and remember, to lock it, it's counterintuitive. We actually want to turn this inner spool counterclockwise. So again, hold the outer housing now, hold the inner spool, turn the inner spool counterclockwise, and then click, right? Now it's locked on. Perfect. Now what we can do is pull these two lines out, okay? Now they should have come out of their little holders, like such. There we go. Now, this is pretty much almost ready to rock. In fact, we can double check this, right? As this thing is spinning around, what's going to end up happening is there's going to be centrifugal acceleration pulling these wires out, and then when you bang this on the ground, when you bang this on the ground, you're going to want to see the line come out. So let's go ahead and do that. Just bang. There we go. See? It loosens. So this is perfect. Okay, so I think we've got this thing restrung. Let's just go put the battery back in and see if we can trim these down to size. All right, so let's grab some safety glasses, put those on, stick the battery in. And again, I like safety glasses now because I'm going to turn this on, and we're expecting these loose ends of the string, or the excess ends of the strings, to just go flying. So let's turn it on, see if that happens. Yeah, there we go. So this is looking good. So yeah, we got now string is the appropriate length. And I think we're ready to go. So I hope this was a helpful video. I think this is a good spot to leave it. yeah, I hope you consider subscribing, and now we can actually get some work done.